Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today I'm sharing with you a pop culture shock, the Howling statue that I just finished up for somebody. Pretty straightforward. As far as paint work, it really wasn't that complex. The biggest issues for this was actually getting him back into the base and seaming up the neckline. Because I guess there was a problem with this run where he doesn't fit into the base at all. And this one was one of those ones where if I tried to put this foot and this foot at the same time, I would have had to actually snap his legs to get into there, and it would not have worked. So sadly, what we had to do was we had to Dremel out this key area in this base tree, and then I had to chop out this area here and rework this key into him. So it was a little bit tricky, only because he is so heavy and he's so damn big. I had to be very careful to work with him and not snap these fingers. This finger was already broken as it was, and I had to repair it. But I didn't want to break all these fingers and have to repair all those. So it was like holding a baby most of the time doing this stuff, because it was it's very difficult to make keys on both feet, because if you walk away from him and you're not paying attention, that key and that magic skull could be soft and he could just come tumbling down. You know, because I really had to gut these keys to get these feet keys into there. So it was a little bit tricky. But he goes in great now. It's actually perfect. So it took a couple tries of putting in Magic Sculpt and filling in with some Aves and kind of keep going until everything locked in pretty well. Now, one of the other things too is the skull on the base. I did repaint the whole base because it was very bland. But the skull on the base was actually humongous. It was actually a human skull was actually the size of this piece almost here. I think there was two of them. I forget. I had to pry them out and break them. It was almost as big as this head. I mean, literally the skull was actually bigger than the skull inside this head, which didn't make sense. If there's a human skull on the base, you would think that it is actually smaller than the wolf, and actually smaller than the animal one. So I actually had a skull in my box of parts. So all we did is we ripped out the skulls that were there. They shattered because I couldn't get them out nicely. And then I added this skull, which is kind of more in scale. So it's a little bit smaller than the animal, and it's definitely smaller than the wolf. So if the wolf is next to the person like this, he's definitely towering over him, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit more in scale. So I just repainted the whole base. It's a little bit shiny and reflecting because I added some gloss coat in certain areas to give it like water. So you figure it's kind of like damp around in these areas here. It's damp around like some of the muddier areas. Repainted the tree because the tree was just like gray. It was just nothing else onto it. Popped out the moss and stuff. Gave the mushrooms a little bit more of a purplish tint to them. Brought out these skulls a little bit more because they were very, very, very yellow. I mean, they were just so potently yellow that I kind of went down and muted them a little bit more. After that, as far as the wolf itself, we didn't do anything with the eyes, and I just pretty much gave it a nice brownish look. Because if you look at the other head, which we're going to get rid of because we'll go over that in a second, it's very gray. He's just a very, very gray wolf. He wanted more of like a brownish wolf. Because I figured, I guess the Howling was always in the moonlight, so he looked gray. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, some of the pictures I looked online, he was kind of brownish fur. But this is what he wants on the shelf. So like I always tell people, you know, if this is what you want to look at and that's what your grail is, you paint it however you want to paint it, and that's the way it should be. So this head we get rid of, and this head stays on, because this is another issue about this item. I actually fixed up the seam around this head. There was a really huge seam, so you could tell there was a head connected to this body, which didn't make sense to me for both heads to look like that. So what I was asked to do was put a bunch of Aves around here and actually fix up this seam. So this head goes on now, and it really doesn't, you know there's a seam there, but it's not as bad as it was. It's definitely not as bad, and you can't really tell. But if you look behind him, you can tell there's a seam because I had no choice in the back up around here. So if you look there, you can see that seam. Because what happens is this hair is kind of coming over this way. So when I put Aves and I tried to pull the head off, what would happen is this hair would pull that Aves and it would lock it. So I did the best I could up here, but I definitely got all the seam out of the front of him, which actually works out well. Now, that's very confusing because why would this head if this head was exactly the same as the other one except the mouth is closed, why would the fur not line up? Which doesn't make sense to me. You can see this is not lining up correctly. This head should be exactly the same, but it's not. So I think that's why that seam line was there. What they should have done is they should have had both heads of the hair and stuff exactly the same, except one mouth open, one mouth closed, and the seam line would have been better. So I guess that's what happened. I'm not really sure why, but whatever. Right now, this head is the one he wants. This is the one he's excited about being on his display. So the other head just goes on eBay, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. But other than that, you know, I did a live stream on it. You can see all the dark, you know, fur on him. It's brownish. I repainted the nails, the fingernails, and all that stuff. And that's pretty much it. So that is the Howling repaint, fixed, customized, all that stuff. Pretty straightforward, nothing too complex, other than just trying to get him back in the base. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.